Rita and James, I mean, that Moreland story, that is pure Marxism. That has no merits whatsoever. It's a lie.
And
that it was slavery, that it's named after slavery. They used the children to get the names going. This is Pol Pot. People must stand up and resist this stuff. It is completely out of control, Rita.
It is absolutely out of control, and this is a point Tony Abbott made a week ago. What we saw with the Greens, and this is a Greens council, what we saw with the Greens getting rid of the Australian flag, it's just an extension of that self-hatred that's taught in schools. That's where it starts, and you add to it and you add to it, and you get what we have here. It is toxic, it's divisive, nothing good comes from it.
And James, it's happening around the world, James. Tell us about the similar thing in Gettysburg, for example. They've taken a Lincoln bust and they're tearing that
down. This was at Cornell University. But just to go back to Rita's point and your point, I just have to say this is one of the reasons why I think people have to be really skeptical about the federal government, the Albanese government's push to increase universal childcare, universal early pre-K, and all of that, because this is what goes on in these things. I mean, I have friends in Victoria who have young children who go already to these early years centers or whatever they call them, and they're already early being propagandized to about, First Nations versus Australian history, about the environment, about green issues, about all sorts of things. Very young kids. And the great concern is that really, this is about, let's get parents back to work. Okay, well, great. I mean, fine. But really, it does feel to me like this is yet another way that they're just trying to raise up this whole new generation of lefties. We see this in the census and attitudes and everything changing. Well, this is because, the schools have had control for 20, 30 years now of just driving this stuff through. And the right really hasn't recognized this, I think. And it's going to take a generation to undo this. And that's only if they start now.
Exactly. So carrying on from that, James, the Lincoln bust, the Gettysburg Address,
Cornell
Lincoln
University,
bust.
very prominent university in the United States. So they had a display in the library, and there was a bust of Abraham Lincoln, back to slavery, the man who freed the slaves, and a bronzed copy of the Gettysburg Address. So great, icon of American history, ending slavery, holding the Union together, defeating the Confederacy. And somebody complained. Somebody complained about it. So some wokester, some idiot complains and says, hey, he's an old white man and whatever. And it's gone. And nobody is admitting who did it or why they did it. It's just, somebody complained. And this is the real key to it. People have got to speak up, I think, and not just let one person, wind up changing the whole culture.